Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to Massive Iron Live. We have the Massive Iron hat on today. Thank you, Joe, client Joe. Am I centered? I have to make sure I'm perfectly centered. I don't know. Who cares, right? Welcome to Massive Iron Live. Thank you guys for being here. I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. The most science-based, unscience-based, science-based channel in the history of the world. I was actually watching a video by Atlas Power Shrugged before I hopped on, and I had a little bit of a laugh. Dr. Milo, he was talking about Dr. Milo Wolf didn't know the difference between lean body mass and muscle mass. And basically, lean body mass is everything in the body, other than, it's stuff, it's bones and blood and, everything really. And, anyway, he was talking about a study where the maximum amount of weight you could lose or calorie deficit, without losing muscle, and he had completely didn't understand the science. So anyway, that's about as science-based as it gets. Hope you guys are having a good week. I hope you're having a good training week. Before we get started, if your questions don't go through, try shortening them. Sometimes if the questions are too long, YouTube will not allow them to post. And you can also try rewording your questions if they don't go through. Sometimes questions get caught up in the naughty filter, or the weird filter on YouTube. It is YouTube, right? So some things just get caught up. So I'm getting caught up. I'm finally well. Monday, I'm going to start doing just something different. I'm going to start doing the Drunk Russian program. Not crazy, not super structured, but I'm going to try to lift 4 to 5 days a week, getting in 2 sets per exercise. I want to start back with running. The weather is good. I want to get out and run again. So I'm going to try to squeeze that in. That's my plan. How's your guys' training going this week? Before I get to the questions, I do have room for 1 or 2 clients right now. I had a client that came down with a cyst on her foot, and she is going to pause coaching. So I have room. If you're interested, you can check out the coaching tab up here. So she is going to take a break from coaching. So I do have 1 or 2 slots available. If you're interested, I am with you 5 days a week. I'm not a check-in once a week type of coach. We get on the phone, we talk about everything, we go over everything, and everything is highly personalized. And I'm with you every single day. We do form checks, adjustments on the run. You guys watching the college basketball? I kind of keep one eyeball on that stuff. I don't have a lot of time, but just making sure my team is doing good. So let's hop into things. One thing I forgot to mention, if you are tuning in late and you're not able to answer a question, please come over to Instagram at Ben the Barman. Don't hesitate to DM me with a question. Also, I have a Discord group, and I'm going to copy the invite. Let's see if I can. Let's see. Never. It's so hard to get. I'm going to post this link up. It's so hard to get this stupid Discord link not to expire. But there you have it. That's the link if you want to screenshot it, or you can just message me on Instagram or email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. I'll hook you up with the link. All right, let's dive into things. Happy Friday. What is going on, Paul? Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Team Massive. Thanks for tuning in. Martin, happy Friday. Steve, no questions this week. Just want to say a big thank you for your support and pick me up this week. It means a lot. You're welcome. And Martin is going through a shoulder issue, shoulder surgery. It is hard to watch somebody go through that process. It truly is. It can be long and frustrating and drawn out. So I sympathize with anybody with a medical condition. So just hang tough, man. Just continue to take care of yourself. It's a long journey, and I didn't really even start get to my biggest and strongest till I was in my 40s. So, Yvonne, how's it going, Yvonne? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in today. What else do we got here? Soy sauce, good to see you. Good morning. I finally maxed the stack on leg extensions. Now what do I do? Good question. I mean, you're going to get to the point on some lifts where you kind of cap out that lift. You may or may not have a good alternative, right? You may or may not have something you want to move to. There are certain lifts over the course of lifting that you're going to get to kind of the cap. So at that point, you have to decide if you want to continue to use them, maybe as a finisher, the icing on the cake, the coup de grace, or if you want to move on to something else. Each lift is going to have a different progression lifetime, so to speak. You're going to get a certain amount of use out of it. If that were me, I would probably decide, do I want to use it as a finisher, do rest pause, do block sets, do 120-second block, so on and so forth, or do I want to drop it? You could also do, you could also use it pre-fatigue, like before squats or before hack squats, as an intensifier, so on and so forth. But I would first, there's only so much volume you can add. If you max out on your reps, there's only so much volume you're going to be able to add. And that's, it's going to run its course really, really quickly. If you can do 3 sets of 15, let's say on your max weight, for example, it's only a matter of time before you can do 5 of 15. You could certainly prolong it that way, but I would consider a different exercise. Big Joe B. How's it going, Joe B? Thanks for tuning in. Big Ernie. Ice cold. Happy Friday, Team Massive. Grateful, I like seeing that word, for getting my 295 squat reviewed. Should I be worried about my hips rising slightly as I'm extending out of the hole? No, not inherently. I mean, here's your hips and here's your shoulders. If your hips rise before your shoulders, like noticeably or dramatically, you're going to kind of tip over, place a lot of stress on your lower back. If there's a minor difference, that's kind of the nature of a big compound movement. It's like flying a jet at 600 miles per hour. You're going to have a little bit of turbulence, a little bit of unsettling action, inconsistent action. So generally, if it's just a random or arbitrary rep, nothing to worry about. Happens to the best of us. You can't be perfect. You can't be machine-like. But if the hips are coming up before the shoulders, generally it means you got loose in the hole, the bar got forward, a number of things. So if that's the case, just continue to get your squat reviewed. Rico, how's it going, Rico? Thanks for tuning in. How are all the dogs doing? The dogs are doing good. We got I have 5 dogs, and the newest one I got 4 or 5 months ago. I can't remember. The day I picked him up, I call him Little Bird. He's the littlest of the group. He was near death. In not an exaggeration, he had really bad pneumonia. He was extremely underweight. Something bad happened to him, and I'm just being honest with my impressions. The breeder gave him to me for free because this was my 4th dog from the breeder. And I think something bad happened to this dog. I think it got behind a washing. I see where they keep their dogs. I think it got behind a washing machine or got trapped somewhere, wasn't able to eat or drink. They didn't know it was back there for a period of time. That's what I suspect. And he's doing great. Wonderful dog. He has merged into the family really, really nicely. Barbell Beauty, thanks for tuning in. Happy Friday, Team Massive. Big Jonathan. Stephen, Team Massive, what is the difference between doing the seated barbell overhead and pin press? Well, I advocate the pin press for the primary reason as follows. I'm somebody that's been doing overhead press variations for uh, when I turn 58 in October, it'll be 40 years now. And unracking can be a pain in the butt. Sometimes you have to unrack from the top. Sometimes you have to unrack here and do the thing. And then sometimes you unrack from the front and do the thing. There's a lot of different weird unracking positions to get in place for the overhead press. So the reason why I like the seated pin press is because, first off, the seated pin press, what I call the seated pin press, we're not doing every rep from the pins. That confuses a lot of people. Why do you call it a pin press if you're not doing every rep from the pins? To differentiate between that and a seated overhead, okay? It's simply that reason. And some people will bash on me that a seated pin press is something that's from, where you do every rep from the pin. That's fair, but it's just a semantics discussion. So don't get your undies in a bundle, as mom used to say. We start with the pin right about here. Ultimately, when we lower it, we're going to lower the bar to right below or right at chin level. If you go right here, you can see your elbows are at about a 45-degree angle and well below your shoulders. That's going to give you plenty of side delt stimulus from that position. So generally, that's about where we lower. But when we start the pin press, you want to get your elbows under your wrists, okay, as best you can. You're going to be leaning back slightly, elbows under your wrists, and then you press up from the pins on the first one and bring it down to about here. That's really the only difference. It's just easier to get into position. Then, especially when the weight gets heavy. At my peak, I was doing above 225 for a lot of volume every week. For reference, I got my seated BTN press to 315 first. I had done the BTN press for over 20 years. And then I moved to a seated front press. And I got that to 315. The thing is, like in the home gym, I would have to, the bar would be in forward of me in my rack. So what I'd have to do is I'd have to get under it, not kneeling, knees bent, unrack it, stand up, and then sit down a little bit into the chair or in the bench. So it's just really unusual starting positions made me kind of move to the pin press, if that makes sense. Jonathan, when doing rear delt flies on the machine, what are indicators you're hitting the rear delt? First off, when you're doing a machine rear delt, like a reverse pec deck, you want to keep the elbow position natural. You don't want to, I have to flare it up here, I have to keep it down here, whatever. Always try to, the general rule for any lift is to keep them natural feeling. So keep your elbows natural. They don't have to be flared. Think about driving the elbows and shoulders back when you're moving it. You don't have to move your hand out straight. Your arm doesn't have to be straight. It's all about the elbow against the pad or wherever the pad is riding or placed. It's all about moving it back. So even if you come out here and your palms or hands are forward of your elbows, that's okay, because it doesn't matter where your hands are relative to your elbow as long as you're driving back with the elbow. How can you, the indicator that you're hitting your rear delt, and this is not dismissive, is that you can feel your rear delt. And if you can't, you just have to work on it. Like when I do this, I can feel the meaty part of my rear delt, right? So it's something, I focus on driving my shoulders and elbows back. I can feel my rear delt contracting right now. Some of you might not have the same level of experience feeling the old rear delt, and that's okay. I want you to know that if you're in process and you can't, or you don't know if you're feeling the rear delt, that's okay. You're not going to die. It's probably still hitting the rear delt. That's the thing with the mind muscle feely type of things. Even if you don't have good connection yet, with the targeted area or the movement. If you're doing it in a controlled manner, boom, control it down, boom, control it down, you're still going to hit the rear delt if you're doing the movement properly. So don't panic. I hope that makes sense. ICT, Ice Cold Tristan, thoughts on having different lifting phases throughout the year. Strength and hypertrophy are all the same thing when you're building your base. So I want you guys to, it's okay with having different programs every 3, 4, 5 months. Okay. But I want to preface this because there's a lot of people listening that strength and hypertrophy during your base building are the same thing. They're the same process, right? It's only when you get to about 90-85% of your strength where you start to dip in low rep work. If you want to work in a low rep phase on your bench or whatever, you certainly can. I don't like to call those strength and hypertrophy because you can't you can't get away from hypertrophy or rep work. That is the base for your strength. So, and just the end cap here that corresponds to each specific phase for the big 4 lifts. So, yeah, you can rotate things as long as they make sense. With my preamble aside, you can certainly rotate things. Just make sure that you're not rotating too often. You want a good phase, 3, 4, 5 months that coincides with a really focused bulk, if that makes sense. Big Jeff, how's it going? Happy Friday. Good morning, Team Massive. Shelly Turner. Good morning, client of mine. Shelly, just put her on a ultra super uber glute focused program. Big MG, how's it going, MG? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Russell. Big hairy ugly dude, can you give some advice coming back after a surgery? Just had surgery on my leg and I'm trying to get back at it, being patient and taking it. So I understand. Let me get a drink here. It is. But the one thing I will say, when you have had a major injury or a surgery or whatever, you probably need to give it more time than you think or you want to. You don't want to rush back into things. The biggest thing I want you to know that any strength or muscle you lost will come back rather quickly, far more quickly than when you gained it initially. So we have to kind of naturally allow that process to take place. Don't panic. So just allow it to take place. Go slow. I tore my left shoulder once just lifting an empty oil drum. Random thing at work. I had to start with 45 on the bench. The next week I did 55 or 50. The next week 60 or 65. I had to slowly build back up, and I built back up to a 500-pound banded bench. No, with chains, sorry. I have that video here on this channel, but that was the end result of a process of a year building my bench back up. I'm not saying it's going to take a year, but you need to have a period like the first month at least where you do moderate, low volume. You're building back into things, starting with a bare minimum, getting your legs underneath you again, and then you can slowly progress. You don't have to go tediously slow, but we do have to gain some confidence, and you certainly don't want to jump or try to jump into the weight you were using pre-surgery. That's a good way to get injured. We deal with not only our muscles, but also the connective tissue. So you might have a degree of strength, but your connective tissue can dramatically decondition to varying degrees. Like if I haven't benched for a month, I could go back on and do 5 sets of 10 on the bench. I know I have that strength, but I also know my connective tissue is going to be a little bit deconditioned or compromised. So I usually start with 185 for 1 set of 10 as a top set, and then I start to work back up from there. Big MG. Sorry, lost it. Trap bar deads, will they contribute to quad mass? Very minimally. I mean, I know a lot of people like to think of trap bar deads as more quad focused, and they certainly are slightly more quad focused than a deadlift, but you are not going to get a lot of quad mass from that lift. It is kind of one of those peripheral shotgun lifts that's going to hit the quads to a minor degree, but is not going to give you substantial quad mass. So, with that said, you still want to maintain a really solid variety of quad exercises. Even though the weight is more over the center of the foot, the center of the body, you're still going to get really quality upper back and trap stimulation with a little bit less lower back stress. So we're transferring some of the stress because the bar is moving towards the center of the body, away from the lower back and to the quads to a degree. But no, they're not going to be a substantial quad builder. I don't want to stop deadlifting, but I feel, I mean, go to trap bar. Absolutely. Go high handle all the way. If I were to go back in time to me at age 18, I would tell myself, just spend 5 years doing the high handle trap bar, get really strong on it, build that base. And then if you want to, have some more lower back stress, get into the conventional deadlift. I know guys like, lifters, coaches like Ripito bashed on the hex bar, very narrow-minded thinking. It simply is, I coach for a living. I see endless amounts of people doing the deadlift, a lot of lower back stress. It takes a lot of time to get form dialed in. I made a video about, programs like Starting Strength this week. And I always get a lot of backlash, and I respect that because not a lot of people see what I see, and that's fair. It comes from a place of like, oh, squats and deadlifts are the ultimate lift. We have to do them. I get it. I get the bravado. I used to be there myself, but once you actually start working with people, you see that the squat and the deadlift take time to learn form, and they're going to beat up the lower back. So if I had to go back in time to age 18, I would do the conventional deadlift, maybe after 5 years, but I'd, build that base with a high handle hex bar. And there's really no downside for the average lifter. It's going to be a quality contributor to back and trap mass and overall, just stress on the body. Big Ernie, how often can you change your program? Well, you want to have a program that's focused in phases. How often, can you change your program? A program should coincide with a bulking phase, a building phase. Okay. So let's say, a building phase is going to be minimum 3 months. As simple as that, minimum 3 months. The first couple, 2-3 weeks on a new program, and this is going to vary depending on the program and how different it was from what you did previously. But when you hop onto a new program, you're going to have an acclimation period where the body has to acclimate to the demands of the new stimulus, the stimulus patterns, the difference in time, the difference in stress. So depending on the program, the first 1, 2, 3 weeks is going to be an acclimation period. And then from there, once your body acclimates to the unique demands of the program, then you can start to run. So on a building phase, you want to make sure it's a minimum of 3 months. Okay. Bulk, at minimum, probably 1 kilo of weight for 3 months. So, you can start a new phase after that. You can continue your bulk with a new 3, 4, 5 month phase of training. Or, you can go into a cut and just hold with your program until you enter a new phase. Now, there's a couple caveats here. And obviously, lifting isn't an exact science. You can start a new phase. Like one time, I started a phase of training with German volume training. And I did the 10 by 10 on squats with 185 pounds and 90 seconds of rest in between. And I literally could not walk 8 days later. My legs, my quads were so insanely sore 8 days later that I had to stop the program. Sometimes we get into a phase of training and we just hate it. We just hate it. In those rare cases, it's okay to, jump ship. We don't have to be like, but that's not really program hopping. Program hopping is a consistent pattern of behavior where we get distracted and we look for magic programs and we get bored in the gym. And, I don't know how to cure that, because you're moving to a program with the same exercises. It's a mind, it's a breakdown of mental focus. It really is. It's as simple as that. We want to, if you get into a new program, okay, let's say you order a custom workout from me, and you can do so on my website, superlivingtoday.com. Just search custom in the search bar, plug. You order a custom workout from me and I give it to you, or you're a client and I give you a workout, and there are certain things about it you don't like or you want tweaked, then we evolve the program. That's okay. That's normal. That's healthy behavior. I don't like the overhead press, standing overhead press. Can I do seated pin press? Reasonable lateral swap. Absolutely. Hey, big, hairy, ugly dude. I don't like the hammer curl, or I've been thinking about using or trying the pinwheel curl. Can I swap that in this program? Absolutely. Maybe 2 weeks in, you find you don't like the pinwheel curl and you want to go back to the hammer curl. Is that program hopping? No. We're trying out a new exercise. You're not completely jumping ship on the program. Now, what you see is that someone will start a program and there'll be a couple aspects of the program they don't like. So instead of evolving the program, they'll just completely set it aside and do something else. And then they'll get into that program. There's a couple things they don't like, and then they'll hop over to a new program, or they'll get distracted. They'll start a program, and there's a couple aspects they don't like. And then they see some other programs from some influencer because they're over consuming workout content. And I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. That sounds very interesting. I want to try that. I want to try that. I want to try that. This mindset can be cancerous. It is equatable to the person that wakes up every day, doesn't plan their food choices, and they live on whims. Like, what do I want for lunch? What do I want for dinner? What do I want? What do I want? We live in a world where everything is basically a la carte. Me and my wife do this. We're going to do this tonight, Friday night. Do we want sushi? Do I want to drive to get sushi? Do I want teriyaki? Do I want Mexican? Do I want Mongolian? Right? I mean, everybody has free meals like that. But you have some people that live in that world constantly, where they don't plan. They don't have, it's completely loose structure. They're trying to hit their macros and hit their calories and hit their protein intake by dicking around on whims. What do I want to do? Program hopping is the same thing, where we'll overconsume fitness content, and then we see a new workout, and we're like, I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Ooh, this sounds interesting. Look, I don't know, any of you. Okay, you're just watching my channel, The Big Hairy Ugly Dude, and I don't know where you're at. But if you are constantly hopping programs, you are not in the muscle building world. Okay, I'm going to say something, turn down, mute the audio, whatever. I'm going to say naughty word. You're just fucking around. You have what's called fuck around-itis. You're not serious. That sounds hurtful. You're not serious because the process requires that you do things a certain way. You can't just hop around from program to program. What do I want to do today? Oh, I didn't like that. What do I want to do today? Oh, I don't like that. What do I want to do today? Now, you'll get one or two people that'll say, but I just go in and train intuitively and got a lot stronger and, whatever. They probably had that could happen theoretically. But I highly, I've never seen anybody just randomly bumble through life without a sort of a structure, right? And it's not like the person's just going to do bench one. Oh no, I don't want to do today. They're probably doing a lot of the same lifts over and over again. But the muscle building, strength building process it's a process. It requires certain things be in place. There are a lot of people that program hop, that jump around from program to program to program. And I think it's mostly because they don't like the process. I don't know. I hate to generalize. They want to go from point A to point B. But I see the same thing with nutrition. Nutrition is so important. A focused nutrition for muscle building is almost more difficult than focused nutrition for a cut, or almost more difficult than just going to the gym and sticking with a program. I see a lot of people that come to me that train really, really solidly, but they can't get their head out of their asses when it comes to having consistent nutrition that facilitates muscle building. You have to have both of these things in place. At some point, we need to mature. This isn't an insult. We need to get out of the childlike mindset that we're going, what do I want? Mom, I want chicken nuggets. Mom, I want macaroni and cheese. Mom, I want an orange juice box. Right? Living in the moment. At some point, we need to grow up. We need to have a training phase. We need to start flossing our teeth. We need to start paying our bills. We need to start living like adults. Okay? We need to start eating like we mean it. Look, outside of the freaks that are just born to run, the 99.9% of us that feel like our results are, we wish they were more amplified. If you want to amplify your results, you need to have concrete training phases that are structured. You need to have structured bulks. You need to have consistent nutrition that facilitates a lean bulk so you don't turn fat. You need to have these things in place. If you want to go from stick man to muscle man, it's going to take 5 to 10 years, unless you're super lucky. Maybe then it'll only take 3 to 4 years. But it's likely going to take more like 5, 7, 10 years. The reality of the situation is if you want to go from that to as muscular as you can be, and some of you don't want to get to that level, that's fair. But if you want to go from stick man to muscle man, it is going to require discipline and focus and planning, nutrition, and programming for a long period of time. I'm going to end cap with this. I have had the luxury of working in the fitness industry for a long, long time. I ran my own forum, which was very successful. It was just a good community. I wasn't Magic or Harry Potter or anything. It was just a good community, and I got in early. And then I got in writing for other sites, started with Critical Bench, and then with my own website, and then with Muscle and Strength. I wrote and ran content for a long, long time, and then with Tiger Fitness. So basically 15 years of writing and communities and content and social media growing and all that kind of thing. So I've been around a lot of people. In my time in the industry, I've been around a lot of people. a lot of very successful people, body transformation stories, interviewing top natural and regular bodybuilders. I've had a chance to interview everybody from Sean Clarita, the giant killer who competes in the Mr. Olympia. I interviewed him 14, 15 years ago when he was all natural and just a decent, natural champion. That's, I'm using that as an example. I've interviewed Frank Zane. I've worked with Jay Cutler. I've, worked with John Meadows. I've, you name it. There's so many people I've worked with content wise or in the gym. And here's the point. Everyone, I want you to hear this. Every one of these people, this vast sea of people, transformation stories, professional bodybuilders that use chemicals and ones that don't, everybody, just average Joes, doesn't matter. The successful have a routine for a long period of time. A routine for a long period of time. Consistent intake. They're not eating the same meals every day, but they have structure, a routine with their programming, routine with their nutrition. I know, like if somebody said to me, hey, Ryan Terry's coming in. Ryan Terry came in. I did a couple of videos with him. Some of you might know his name, or the Hodge twins, or I've done videos with those. When they would come into my office and we talk about content, I know how they would eat. I know I know their structure without even talking to them. None of them walks in like, I don't know what I'm going to have for lunch. Every last one of them knows exactly what they're going to have for lunch. And some of them might have a loose day. Let's go to Chipotle, but they know what to get at Chipotle. So they have those pieces in place. They're not guessing. They're nailing their nutrition. They're nailing their workouts. Their weight doesn't just, I'm going to stay at maintenance and hope I can plantain. There's no hoping. There's a process, and they're all embedded in the same process. Does that make sense? I'm just going to end cap because we started talking about program hopping, and we kind of transition in nutrition. I made a video a couple of months back saying there's two major things that will lead to futility, not getting the results you want. And it ties into this discussion. Number one, no structured training that facilitates individuals getting a lot stronger than they are now in the lane of hard training. We want to focus on hard training, but that facilitates progressive overload, and it facilitates individuals getting a lot stronger than they are now. So program hopping doesn't facilitate that. It is fuck around itis, okay? Number two, when somebody's not serious about their weight just stays the same all the time. I have a lot of people that come to me that train hard, and their weight just does whatever. They don't take it seriously. There's no focus. Your weight has to be moving up or it has to be moving down. That's how body recomposition works. It has to be going in a direction. I have to be building muscle during a phase for an extended 3, 4, 5 month period of time, or a quick mini cut and then back to the phase. Body recomposition requires building phases that are structured and planned and cutting phases. It requires planning consistency with your programming and your nutrition. And if you are one of these individuals that will get around to it when they get around to it, that is currently in some world of excuse, and I'm just speaking general to everybody, right? Like, I'll get around to it, or I like being at maintenance, or whatever, whatever the thing is, and you're not doing these two things, I know you're not getting the most out of your training. I know you're not, because I've worked with so many people over the years, and the people that are successful do the stuff they need to do, and they don't bitch, they don't complain, they don't whine, and they don't buy into their own fucking excuses. This is so critical. I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing that. I do not give a fuck how you feel. Neither does the process, and that's what you guys need to understand. Program hopping, weight staying the same thing, staying at the same place, dicking around, messing around. I don't there's a process, and either you're doing it or you're not doing it. You have to be willing to get up every day and say, self, I need to do what I need to do to get to where I want to go. If not, let's be honest, let's be real. Let's have a moment of clarity, standing in front of the mirror. I'm just fucking off. Let's be real. I'm just fucking off. I'm just wasting my own time. Reality time, reality check. Now, look, lifting weights is one of the best things you can do for general health. Amen. Can I get an amen? One of the best things you can do. You combine that with a diet where you're eating mostly animal and plant-based to whatever degree you want. You combine those two things and you get at least 7,000 steps a day on average. You're going to have a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for good health. Life always has curveballs, and we never know. But lifting and eating animal and plant-based and getting in your steps, you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful base for health. That's not the same as muscle building. Okay? Hear me. That's not the same as the muscle building process. Lifting weights is not the same as focused training. You see many people at Planet Fitness and LA Fitness and whatever fitness doing the same stuff over and over again, never getting stronger than they are now, never truly applying progressive overload. They're eating healthy, eating mostly animal and plant-based. They're taking good care of themselves. Their body composition is reasonable. They look good. They're taking care of themselves. That is what's called healthy living. It's great for you. It's wonderful. That is not the muscle building process. Hear me. That is not the muscle building process. All right. Let me move on from that long ramble. Are pause squats and tempo squats worth doing? Do they have any carryover? Strength always builds strength, okay? There's always positive carryover from good selection of exercises. So we can't say to a specific degree, what impact does front squats have on back squats? What impact do pause squats have on back squats? What impact do leg extensions, do leg presses, do hack squats have on back squats? Anybody that tries to give you a specific number on these is just wasting your time. What we do know is that there's always positive carryover. That's why we need a quality selection of exercises, a reasonable variety of exercises. Strength builds strength, and a reasonable variety is a good thing. So, the value in pause squats, excuse me, I'm sorry, is that they teach you to stay tight in the hole. There are a lot of people that dive bomb, that bounce out of the hole, that get loose. The value of a pause squat or a pause bench is that it takes you away from dive bombing, like on the bench, bouncing it off your chest, and you learn control during the descent. That's a good thing. The length of pause doesn't matter. It's more the mental focus on the pause that contributes to control. Control during a squat, staying tight. Because on a pause squat, if you're descending with control, if you get loosey-goosey, or if you can't dive bomb it because you'll lose control, you'll lose tightness. A pause squat, a paused bench requires you to stay controlled and tight as you descend. Does that make sense? So there are positives there. And these are good tools, pause squats, for people that have trouble staying tight, for people that have dive bombing, etc. Tempo squats, not a big fan. They can certainly have application at times for an experienced lifter, but I feel that you're turning a natural movement into something that's unnatural, where you're counting time rather than trying to focus on a natural controlled descent. And I think in that action, you open the door to unusual stresses in areas that you really don't want to stress. Maybe putting more stress on your knees or your quads in weird places, your tendons in weird places. And who knows, it could contribute to knee tendonitis or all kinds of sorts. Tempo squats, look, I've tried everything over the years. I don't want you doing tempo squats. I want you to focus on control. Pause squats are perfectly okay. All right. Coco Blasowitz. Sorry, just having a little bit of fun. Coco Loco Blazak. Kazak. Right? All right. Good morning. I'm new to the channel. Could you tell a little of your reasonable approach to bulking? The first thing I would do, I have quite a few videos on this, and I'm not trying to be dismissive, but I will get into it. But I do want to say there's a lot of information. If you go to the main page and search bulking and basically check any of my videos in the last 5 to 7 years, you'll find more information for anybody that's curious. If you go to my website, Super Living Today, and you search bulking, I do have a bulking PDF. All that information is here on the website or here on the channel. I'm not trying to sell you stuff, right? I am a small business and I appreciate your support. I do have a bulking PDF, but all of it's free here on the channel. So basically, a lean quality bulk, and we're generalizing here, is going to be combined with a 3, 4, 5 month phase of training. At minimum, during a lean bulk, you want to gain about 2 pounds per month. Usually I say about a kilo roughly, which is about 2.2. But we're not trying to create rules. 3 pounds per month is kind of the ceiling. Let's say you wanted to do a 12-month bulk, maximum, that would be 35 pounds in 12 months. That would be a very long, controlled, aggressive bulk, in my opinion. So basically, you want to bulk at least 3 months. Generally, a phase of training, for many people, a good starting point is 3 to 5 months of training combined with a 3 to 5 month bulk. Generally, I start clients with a 10-pound bulk over 3, 4, 5 months. Is 10 pounds magic? No, but 10 pounds isn't a lot over 4.5 months, right? And it's close enough where we can do a quick cut and get back home. This forces us to be disciplined. It forces us to avoid the pitfall of an aggressive bulk, a fat bulk, a fulk, right? And by being reasonable with your rate of weight gain, you can stay in a calorie surplus at least 9 or 10 months out of the year, depending on your goals and where you're at and how long you want to bulk. You could do a 4 to 5 month bulk. Let's say 4. Do a quick mini cut of that. Let's say you gain 10 pounds. And let's say you start at 165, you go up to 175. We're going to do a quick mini cut down to 167 this time. 3 weeks, boom. Then we're going to go back up 10 pounds for another 4.5 months. So you just had basically a 10.5 month period of time where you were in a bulk at least 90% of the time. Number one, this forces you to be disciplined, which in the long run is what you need to be successful building muscle. Number two, it keeps you away from the fat bulks, right? And number three, you get to be in a calorie surplus most of the year. What a wonderful thing. On the other hand, if you do an aggressive bulk and gain 25, 30 pounds in a short period of time, then you have to spend 3-4 months trying to lose that fat, and before you get back into another aggressive 2-month bulk, right? So you're spending most of your year in a cutting diet, not building. The more time you're in a cutting diet, the more time means the less time you're in a building phase. Simple. So that's why I advocate the massive bulk, what I call the massive bulking plan. It's just my structure. So let me know if you guys have any questions on that. ICT finally did 135. Good. That's strong work. That's really good work. I speculated that it would equate to somewhere around there. Good work. 135 for one set of 5 is kind of the initial goal I want to see my clients get to on the overhead. So well done. Excuse me. In a general sense, what would be the range of direct quad and hamstring sets you recommend per week? Depending on how often you can get into the gym, 9 to 12 for quads. 9 would be 3 training days a week. 12 would be 4 training days a week. What I mean is if you're training 4 days a week, it's going to give you the opportunity to do about 12 sets of quads a week in general. These aren't rules. They're just starting points. If you're training 3 days a week, full body, alternating, upper, lower, whatever, it'll give you a chance to work about 9 sets of quads a week. Generally for hamstrings, I do 6. So here's my basic starting point, okay? Take the number of training days per week you're going to work out, multiply it by 18. This is a starting point, so don't panic. You can adjust the numbers down to 16 or 15 or whatever. Training days per week times 18. These are the number of hard sets. So 4 training days per week would equal 72 hard sets per week. 3 training days per week would equal 54 hard sets per week. Now we use the rule of 2/3. This is something I created, and I want to stress that in case anybody rips it off. It's my idea. The rule of 2/3. This is how I program. You take those sets, 72 or 54, and you multiply them by 2/3. This will give you the volume for your major areas of focus: quads, chest, delts, back. So if you're doing 72 hard sets a week, 2/3 of that is going to be 48 total sets. And then we divide those sets into chest, back, quads, and delts. So 12 each per week. If you're doing three workouts per week, it would be 9 for each of those. So that's how you start with your quad work. Now, the leftover sets, let's say you're doing 4 workouts per week and you get 72 hard sets. The leftover work out of that 2/3 is 24 hard sets. So you multiply that by 2/3 and you get 18. Now we're going to divvy that up, 18, into hamstrings, biceps, and triceps, 6 apiece. So if you're training 4 days a week, you have 12 sets for quads, 6 sets for hammy whammies. And you can adjust this. This isn't meant to be a be-all, end-all rule. You have to only do it this way. It's a general launching point to create an intelligently structured program. Hey, I want to do more hammy whammy work. Move it to 9. Hey, I want to do less quad work during this phase. Move it to 9. Take those 3 sets. Move it to hammy whammies. Whatever you want to do. Does that make sense? Big Jimmy Cooking Nozzle. Good morning, Steve and everyone. How reliable would you say the 1Rep Max calculators are? I go to 1repmax.com and it's pretty reasonable. There's always going to be some variance, but I find they're pretty darn reasonable. When I am structuring a peaking program for a client, I use them, and they're all pretty close. There's always going to be a little adjustment, but they're functionally reasonable. All right. Happy Friday, Big Hairy Ugly Dude. Thank you. Appreciate it. Calico Riot, what's your favorite lift for full upper back development? Not one lift. I don't live in that world, and I don't mean to be dismissive. I live in the world of a battery of exercises, right? I don't focus on one lift for full upper body development. I'm not trying to be dismissive. My mindset is, let's get them all. Let's get the weapons. I like to do a pendlay row and a dumbbell row, alternating every other week. I like to do a lat pull down, V-bar. If I was younger, I might do dumbbell pullovers. If I had a Nautilus pullover machine, I would absolutely use that. Just a brilliant, underrated piece of hypertrophy equipment. So I want a vertical pull. And then I love the seated cable row, just my priority, because it has a good progression opportunity. And I feel for a cable exercise, you can really get a lot of value out of it. So for me, I have the deadlifts over in the corner because they're a unicorn lift. I don't consider them, even though they work the upper back and rhomboids and traps and all that kind of stuff heavily, I don't consider that part of my back work. I consider it a unicorn lift that adds to the back. So from there, I do a pendlay row, alternating with a dumbbell row, generally a lat pull down. After that, generally the seated cable row. And I have a T-bar station here. I might do T-bars. I might do inverted rows. I have jammer arms. You can really get a good row, like a machine row on that jammer arm. I'll do one of those. So kind of the last exercise of the day, I'll do whatever I feel like, but I'll keep a core group of exercises in rotation. The biggest thing, and I'm going to say this as an end cap, the biggest thing that has contributed to my back mass was a change in how I approached back training about 20 years in. So for the first 20 years of lifting, I do a seated cable row and a lat pull down and some pull-ups and a machine row. And I started doing dumbbell rows, but I never got above 120s on dumbbells. Pretty decent. It was only when I started adding a lot of heavy work and brutality, deadlifts, heavy dumbbell rows. I posted a video on Instagram, I don't know, 240 by 8 or 260 by 8, I don't remember. Heavy pendlay rows, that's when my back really started to develop. People assume I'm doing them sloppy. I'm not doing them sloppy. I have a real tight focus on driving my shoulders and elbows back. And, you know, when you're on Instagram and you're posting like a 240 or 260, you know, dumbbell row for 8 reps, the knee-jerk reaction is like, no mind-muscle connection, you know, all that kind of stuff. And nothing could be further from the truth. You know, I'm gonna show you that. But this was a pretty big game changer for me. Let me just pull it up here. Hold on one second. We'll get the old video up. Present, share screen. I am of the opinion you need some big rows. Deadlifts just added, my erectors are just like pythons. They're super thick. I didn't know I was going to get erectors like that. This is 265 by 8. The first rep's kind of a feeler rep, probably the sloppiest of the group. Just watch here for a second. But I focus on driving my shoulder and elbow back. The assumption is, oh, it's just sloppy rows, whatever. I have an intense focus and I can feel my back and lats working on every rep. So the first rep's the sloppiest. I remember this set. And then after here, I fall into a nice groove with the shoulder and elbow back, shoulder and elbow back. You can see the elbows more down towards the hip a little bit than you would expect. Yes, my torso is moving up, but my torso is moving up as a response to driving the elbows and shoulders back. You can't get a weight up to there without a little bit of torso rotation, left to right rotation. It's impossible, right? And if you want to keep your torso neutral and just do this, that's a good, complementary lift, but it's not going to give you a lot of back mass. All right. I have slight elbow pain during curls, and I found that if I put my elbows a bit behind my back, if it works, yeah, absolutely. What I am concerned about is that you have elbow tendonitis, because this is the most common issue. So if the elbow pain is on the inside of your elbow, and I'm not saying it is, but if it is, that is an over-gripping, overuse injury that generally occurs on your back day from a lot of your back work. So you need to get straps or VersaGrip Pros. I have no affiliation with them. But if it is on the inner part of your elbow right here, that's elbow tendonitis, which is directly attributable, in my opinion, to all the gripping you do on back day. So you want grip support so you can relax that a little bit and allow it to heal. Big Michael from Germany. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Big Jeff. What lift would you say helped develop your upper traps the most? Just general, a mindset, not one specific lift. Like, I am traps obsessed. And I wish I had some simple program, do 2 sets of snozzle wazzles and your traps will grow. It's a mindset. Like, after deadlifts on my last rep, a lot of times I just hold the bar, just working those traps in a fatigued, or sometimes I'd do a couple of power shrugs after my heaviest last set of deadlifts, or just a lot of random brutality. Over the years, if you search traps or shrugs on this channel, or if you go to my website, Super Living Today, and you search Omnibus, I have a section on traps and shrugs if you don't want to search videos. Power Shrug Hell and Shrug 5x5s and Massive Shrug, all these different brutal protocols. And then I would toss in static holds and shrugs at the end of RDLs, and just heavy, brutal, high volume. That's really, 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 what it was for me. And it was just squeeze. Like, it can be hard to squeeze in, traps work. Just, I'm going to do 2 sets of dumbbell shrugs, and that's great. But it needs to be, more than that. It needs to be a mindset. It needs to be, really getting after things. I'm trying to see if I can find a photo of my traps just for reference. It can be, there's so many photos I have that it can be hard to find. So just give me 1 second. That's not a great one. That's not a great one. If I can't find it in 2 seconds here, I'll just jump ship and quit. But it's a mindset for me. It's just trying to squeeze in reps whenever I can, squeeze in extra shrugs whenever I can, so on and so forth. So I can't find it. We'll let that die. All right. ICT. I meant that I can switch between different rep ranges. Yeah, that's fine, as long as it makes sense. Big Michael, I'm working out 6 times a week, and fast carbs help me with my workouts, no doubt. What amount of sugar intake would you consider? Well, I mean, as long as it's balanced. I mean, fast carbs can really get in there and replenish your glycogen. There's no magic number. Like, somebody that's eating a lot of food like you, my main concern, you're getting in plenty of calories, so you have a good base. If all you were eating were donuts and, snack cakes and biscuits and that sort of thing, then I'd be worried, because, I'd be worried for your health, but as long as you're getting in plenty of meat and animal base, that's kind of a vaporous statement. What's plenty? Well, do you feel you're getting in enough? If you are, then you're in a good place. Big Isaac, thanks for tuning in. When do novices usually move from 2 sets per exercise to 3? It depends on the novice. If I get somebody off the street who wants me to train them, I'm going to start them on 2 sets per exercise, moderate weight, for this reason alone, or for these reasons alone. Number one, most people have that motivation epiphany. I'm super motivated today and I'm going to go to the gym. And then they get in there like Rocky Balboa and they're chasing chickens around and doing 452 sets. And they wake up the next day like, and they feel like this is going to be my lifting career for the next 306,452,000 trillion billion days, right? So they tend to overwork and then they can't move the next day. When you're easing somebody into a program, you have a neuromuscular adaptation phase where they're a little bit shaky under lifts and their central nervous system is getting up to speed. We also want to mitigate the amount of soreness. Let's ease into things. Let's let the connective tissue get up to speed. Let's let the central nervous system get up to speed. We're not being wimps. We're being more reasonable. So depending on the individual and how taxing and sore and shaky they are, you can tell. I wish there was a way to say specifically, a general rule, but there's not. It really comes down to the individual, and you can tell like they're ready for 3 sets, or they're not super sore. Let's move them to 3 sets, or they're not super shaky, or some people just don't have the confidence yet. Does that make sense? A Mongolian barbecue does sound good. I love going to Mongolian. I don't know. I feel like a rant, but I'm not going to do a full-blown rant. Like eating out, I'm very lucky because when I want to eat out, I think I have a lot of, let's say, clean choices. But with that, I feel you can find a lot of clean choices. Many of us, not all of us. Some of you are more in the middle of nowhere, and I get it, and it's harder. You can't find Mongolian, and you can't find sushi, and you can't find this, that, or the other thing. But like, I feel like when we eat out, sure, I do pizza once a month. You think I'm not human? I love pizza. I love wingies. I love pizza. I love that stuff. I love tortillo chips, right? I know it's tortilla. I'm not an idiot. But, we do that. But when I eat out, I tend to try to find things that are clean and fresh ingredients that still taste awesome. Mongolian, sure, you can put a little sugar sauce in there and some stuff and whatever. But Mongolian, you get to choose your meats, your veg, your plant-based, excuse me, even eggs. Go to Mexican, Mexican, I usually get just the meat, and you have the meat and the refried beans and the rice and the lettuce and the stuff, and it's pretty healthy. Shelly just said her glutes are on fire. Good, Shelly. Glad to hear that. I did something right, and you're doing something right. So you can eat pretty healthy at a Mexican restaurant if you avoid the chips, right? Sushi, Japanese steakhouse, you can get the teriyaki chicken, you can get a lot of healthy stuff. We have a Chinese restaurant here in town, in this small town, that isn't filled with these insane sauces that are bloat lord sauces. It's really clean and good. And I don't, they made the conscious effort to clean up the overall nasty impact. So I can go there, just get beef or chicken or whatever with a lot of veg and just a reasonable sauce. There are a lot of good food choices. Chili's has, a meal where you can get like the sausage and the beef and the chicken and the shrimp and the stuff, really good stuff. There's a Mexican restaurant. I forgot what it is. It's a chain locally, but they have a dish called the Three Amigos, and you get a steak and you get a chicken breast and you get tons of shrimp, and it's just some refried beans and some rice and just healthy, good stuff. The stuff tastes good. I don't. I'm not being holier than thou. I might have jalapeno poppers every now and then, or a couple fries every now and then, but there's so many good choices you can have. We went to expensive, but we went to a Brazilian steakhouse last weekend for our anniversary. Meat, 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 meat. Hell yes. I will crush all the meat. So it's just a matter of finding those choices and making, like, you could do Chipotle, you could do Subway, you can have a bowl, you can put whatever you want in the bowl. You're in control, but it's not an excuse to be a fat lord. Thanks, Corey. I appreciate it. All right, what do we got? I wasted literally years program hopping everything under the sun. Your video about program rearrangement sent me. I'm really glad to hear that, because I'm never being critical. When I go into these rants about nutrition, keeping your weight the same, structuring your program, stop eating like a child, stop lifting like a child. There's a difference between healthy lifting weights and healthy eating and actually muscle building. I'm not trying to be critical, because as I said, even if your weight doesn't change, if you're lifting and eating good food, you are doing a wonderful job for your health. That's great. But it is not the same as a muscle building process. And that's something we need to stress. And, at some point, we need to have that epiphany. Big Jonathan, big hairy ugly dude. If someone is after a more yoked bear mode, with the approach, no. You train like me, like the power building approach. The only thing is you're going to have a little bit higher body fat percentage. Like, I walk around at 22 to 24, maybe 22, 23. Scandalous to a lot of people in the fitness industry. But my body weight at 240 pounds, and I have some loose skin from my 100-pound weight loss. I'm just telling you the way it is. Like, I walk around and people go, "Are you a pro wrestler? You look like a pro wrestler. You look like Stone Cold. You look like Triple H. You look like whatever. You look like Goldberg," right? I get those comments because my body weight is up a little bit, because I have the muscular base, and the more muscle you have, the more fat you can have. It's more forgiving. So I'm not like a ripped bodybuilder. I get the pro wrestler comment so many times. I also get the bodybuilder one occasionally. I never get a power lifter comment. It's always like, "Man, you look like Triple H," or "Man, you look like Steve Austin," or "Man, you look like Goldberg," or whatever. That's what I would consider the yoked bear mode. Where you're at like 22% and you have a lot of mass. I'm not even as big as GVS. GVS is probably the biggest natural I've ever seen. But that aside, I would that's what I would consider. So initially when you're building mass, you're not going to look like that, but having a little bit extra fat on your frame. Now you have to decide what level's healthy for you and where you want to be. I'm not pushing this as an ideal. Big Corey. So many pick a program, quit it once they realize what it actually takes to do that program. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because it's going to be hard work. There's no way around it. Like, when do the weights start feeling lighter? Never. Like the Valley Girl, oh, never. When do the weights start feeling lighter? Never. Oh. All right. Like, never. Like, just because, hey, I squatted over 640 pounds for 2 reps. Guess what? 315 pounds still feels heavy because it is heavy. The weight feels heavy. I'm going to wait for it to feel light. It'll feel light. Never, right? For sure. It'll never feel light. You have to get past that. I feel like I'm going to get injured. You know what? Lifting for 20 to 30 years, you're going to pick up strains and pains. The minor strains and pains, and even sometimes occasionally semi-major, those are going to happen. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say you can get down the road. You're going to pick up tons of little aches and pains. You can't expect to play rugby for 10 years and not get the living snot beat out of your body, or football or basketball or any sport, right? You're going to twist something here. You're going to have some weird torsional stress there. Lifting is actually safer than any of these things. So you're still going to pick up, some aches and pains and strains, but I want to find I want to find this. I don't know if I can find it. Just give me 1 second. There was a post by someone that showed the injury rate of lifting compared to the injury rates of there we go, Dr. Alan Bacon. Give me a second. I want to find Dr. Alan's one of my favorite people on the old Instagrammy. And let's see. He had a post, and I want to see if I can find the post. So just give me a second if I can. Perfect form is a myth. Glucose monitor. Heavy lifting is bad for your joints. Okay, here it is. I'm going to pull this up, and we're just, this isn't a be-all, end-all, but I do want you guys to see it because I'm sure many of you guys have not seen it. And if you want to go follow Dr. Alan Bacon, tell him BHUD sent you. Please drop a comment. Injury rates for different forms of sports. Excuse me. I've seen similar things like this over the years. All right. Per 100 hours. Team sports, 13.4. Injuries per 100,000 hours. Running, 10. And the sources are listed here. CrossFit, 3.1. Bodybuilding or muscle building, what we're doing, 0.2. So basically, one strain for like every one, I would consider this more, not just a minor strain, but more, you're going to pick up minor strains during team sports. Like my ankle, I twisted my ankle a little bit, right? But we're talking, noteworthy injuries. The rates are extremely low. Rack pull. Speaking of chicken nugs, can we agree that boneless thighs? Yeah, man. I mean, Buffalo Wild Wings and all these places started putting boneless wings to make it more appealing for adults. All you're eating is chicken nugs. You're eating, might be better. Hey, I've had them. I don't mind them too, but they're just chicken nugs for adults. ICT. When is it good to test my one rep? Whenever you want. I mean, that's highly individual. I wouldn't do it more than a couple of times a year on squats and deads because they can be a lot more punishing. On close grip bench, on presses, generally they're pretty forgiving lifts. If you haven't, trained them heavy in the 2 to 3 rep range, I might do like a month peak. You can search this channel for peak and find out how to do a quick 4-week peak. But I would kind of transition, you're doing a 3x5 and then maybe a 3x3 and a 2x2, and then maybe test your 1 rep max. A little bit of transition, but I would kind of do that. It's not going to require you to do completely different programming. But squats and deadlifts, you don't really want to do those too often, really. Use a 1 rep max calculator for them if you can handle it. Big J Paper, I almost said pepper. Hey, Steve, if you only had a barbell, a squat rack, and 500 pounds in weights, how would you include assistance movements? I just built a workout like this for someone recently. I did a lot of this stuff over the years, especially during the pandemic. So I'll give you a brief overview, okay? So you have a rackaroo, and you have a barbell and you have plates. So we're going to start with the major body parts. You have the squat. You could throw in the pause squat or the front squat as an assistance work. So if somebody's doing regular squat work, I might have a second day where they're doing a pause squat. Okay. You could do some you could do some barbell lunges. I like to do alternating legs, left, right, left, right. That way you're not splitting up the sets unilaterally. So you can do like barbell lunges, you can do barbell back squats, front squats, that sort of thing. That's where I would start. You can do Romanian deadlifts and Dimmel deadlifts for the hammy whammies. Okay. DIMEL, if you're not familiar with that, that'll also hit the glutes. You could do reverse lunges if you want as well. For the back, you can do the Pendley row, the barbell row, the Yates row, the Meadows row, the inverted row, where you put the barbell in your rack. You could do the chest supported row. Probably missing a few here. T-bar row, if you're able to prop it in the corner under a sandbag or whatever. So back, you can get in a lot of decent movements. Chest, you're going to do the bench press. You could put a plate under the front of your bench and do a decline press. You could do the guillotine press, which is more arms flared, bringing it down until you get a chest stretch and then pushing back up. Spoto press, 1.5 bench, lower it, bring it halfway up, lower it, bring it all the way up, lower it, bring it halfway up, lower it, bring it all the way up. Floor press, you can do some creative work, incline press, that sort of thing. Let's see, shoulders, you can do the BTN press, you can do the seated overhead press, you can do the upright row, you can do the high pull, you can do the landmine press. So you can get pretty good work in. I'm probably missing a few things, but I'm just rushing through. And Bicepticons, you can do the barbell press, you can do 21s, you can do massive curls. Tricepticons, you can do close grips, you can do JM press, you can do maybe skull crush. I'd buy an easy bar. I'd buy an easy bar because they're pretty Olympic easy bar, just to go with that, to be honest. But that's a good starting point. Big Billy Baker. Good morning, Bill. Happy to see you. 3 pounds would be severely underweight person. I like when we're talking about bulking, I set a cap at 3 pounds as like a regulator. So it's more pragmatic or practical. You start a bulk. Let's say you're starting a bulk with me and you're at 3.2 pounds the first month. I'll say, hey, fatty. Really? Hey, fatty. We need to back down the calories a little bit. A severely underweight person, we're probably going to be a little bit more aggressive, but we need to learn how to train with that person as well. So 3.5 pounds, we don't want to take an underweight person and just put the pedal to the metal. We do want to be more aggressive, but we don't want it to go so fast that they outkick their coverage or, gain weight faster than their ability to train hard, if that makes sense. Big Vince, good to see you, Vince. Should protein intake stay the same? Oh, absolutely. You don't want to fudge with calories and protein intake. The thing you need to understand is that after working a muscle group or any workout, your muscle protein synthesis levels are elevated for 24 to 48 hours. So if you're training 3 or 4 times a week, you're always in an elevated standpoint. Plus, you don't want to go on off days where you have low protein and, a bunch of carbs, super low protein. You want to keep it steady. You're always in a state of recovery and repair. Big Matt. I know my overhead press has been slow. Are there any tips? The biggest tip, Matt, is that we need to focus your nutrition, get you on focused bulks and cuts. Matt has been with me for a while, and uh, the biggest thing, Matt, is that your weight isn't deliberate. And this is not a criticism. I'm just being real with you. You don't have focused cuts. You don't have focused bulks. It's kind of scattershot. It's all over the place. So you're pretty strong. Matt is pretty strong. But to go from strong to WTF strong, unlike the overhead, we really need to get that card into place. Does that make sense? You bet. Thank you for tuning in. Tell us 3 random facts about yourself. Please try to enjoy each fact equally. If you know, you know. Severance. For those of you that haven't watched the TV show Severance, that's where the reference. All right, 3 facts. Let me give you 3 facts about myself. Back in the day, when I was working healthcare, back around the start of the internet, I don't know, 2003, 2004, somewhere around that, you could go online and you could get legally, I don't know if they call it certified or registered as a wedding officiant. Not a priest, right? Not a pastor, but you're legally, you can do it now, obviously. But you could legally, perform wedding ceremonies. So it was a good way to make money, extra money. And this was long before I got into lifting. I was just working, a moderate, lower middle class job, lower middle class income. I would do wedding ceremonies. So I would meet with the couple, and they would tell me how they wanted their ceremony to go based on slide this in, we're going to play a song here, all that kind of stuff. And I would put on my big black robe with gold trim and perform the ceremony. And I don't know, get paid like $500 for a couple hours of my time. I used to do that. I didn't do a lot of them. I probably did 15. And over the, during a couple of years. But yeah, that's one random thing I don't, talk about. But I'm trying to see if there's a picture of me doing the thing. Hold on. There was one online where I was in the background. And if I can't find it in a second, I'll jump ship. Just give me 1 second. Figured you guys would get a kick out of it, but hold on 1 second. I'll do one more search. There was one photo on Facebook, and it's really hard to find. So what else could I put? What else is a random fact? That's one random fact. I did that for about 2 years. Made a couple, $2-3. Random fact. I worked in occupational health for 5 years, from like 2000 to 2005. And my main job was mobile hearing. But I also did pulmonary function tests. And in occupational health, when I wasn't on the road, I would come into the office and I would work in the role of a pre-employment nurse in their position. So the people would come in, I'd do their drug tests, I'd do their vitals, I'd do their vision test, I'd do their hearing test, I'd do their pulmonary function test, all those things. And I would prep them for the nurse practitioner. That's when I wasn't on the road. I was on the road 4 out of 5 days. I did literally 50,000 hearing tests in my life. I administered, I'm not even kidding. I had a mobile hearing unit that was, 40, 50 feet long. Every day I would drive and go to a factory. some days third shift, some days first shift. I would work anywhere from 8 to 18 hours a day and I would do 2 hearing booths in the mobile unit. So I do 2 hearing tests at a time, and we do 10 an hour. So if I was there for 8 hours, I do approximately 80 hearing tests. If I was there for 16 hours, I'd do approximately 160 hearing tests. And I would do somewhere roughly 500 hearing tests a week. And, just, and I wasn't on the road every single day, but I did over 5,000 or just crazy amounts of hearing tests. 100 a day. I don't know what it shakes out to be. Just an incredible amount of hearing tests. And that was my specialty in occupational health. I also administered so many breath alcohol tests and drug tests, not only for pre-employment, but for people that would get injured at jobs. It was to the point where I could see in the matrix during drug tests, like some people would try to sneak in samples or some people would try to stall. You went through all this stuff. And they would put me in with the more violent or aggressive people because I wasn't a small little flower. So I probably administered thousands of drug tests over the years. So that's fact number 2. What would be an interesting third fact? Let me just think here a moment. Let me try to shake something out that is interesting, that is not from the lifting world. I think I told many of you before this fact, but after occupational health, I worked as a machinist for 2 years. And I got laid off. The economy was pretty bad around 2007. So I started 2 websites. I started Muscle and Brawn, which I no longer own, but that grew into this career. The forum exploded. I got hired as a writer, and that's what launched everything. But I also started a independent film website where I'd review films and interview directors, independent films. So I actually started 2 paths at that time in my life. I didn't know one of them was going to turn into a career. Another interesting thing is that I used to, in the 2000s, spend endless amount of time writing when I had free time. I absolutely love writing kids' books. I have some books on Amazon. They're under the pen name S. William Shaw, just to differentiate from my lifting. And I have Sherman Oak and the Magic Potato, and one called the Santa Mysteries. Not great sellers by any means, but I wrote a couple of kids' books. So I like writing. That's one of my main passions. And if I ever retire, I have a couple of books, science fiction space, that I would like to write. So I could probably go on all day long. Minor facts: I worked as a de facto drill sergeant, platoon sergeant for the Broke Dicks holdovers when I was in the military. I wasn't a drill sergeant, but they gave me a platoon, and I had the holdovers and Broke Dicks. They allowed me to call cadence, run PT, walk students across, the campus, so to speak. So I got to do a lot of drill sergeant-y things, and it was very interesting having my own platoon. I really, really enjoyed that. It forced me to grow up and be very, very disciplined. That was in Fort Lee, Virginia. So, yeah. All right. If Hollywood hired you to get an actor to portray Superman, the actor is 6'2" male. It weighs okay. The first thing we do would be pretty aggressive eating. I would probably start about, let's say we got 3 or 4 months. The way Hollywood does it now are drugs. I'd probably give him about 500 milligrams of testosterone to start with. But that aside, I would train him the way I train. But you can't really get up to speed dramatically in that short period of time. The reality is you can't. You can gain a couple pounds of muscle as a beginner. So, I mean, I like the hypothetical, but the reality is you can't gain muscle quickly in a short period of time. You give me a year, I could pack 10, 12 pounds on him if he did everything I said. But mostly Hollywood is drugs, no matter what they say. What's the value of having a Smith machine with cable attachments and peg inserts for attaching hooks and safety pins for doing free weight? If the space is there, of course. For safety, are you asking about the safety pins? There are some exercises I do on a Smith where I get weird rotational things and I'm pushing up and I can't rotate it and it's coming down. I think that's the value. I mean, if you're pushing sets to the limit, there's going to be some sets where some of them have thicker grips than a barbell. I think most of them might have thicker grips than a barbell, but please feel free to correct me. But in those cases where you can't get that little rotational nudge going on when you're trying to racks after a heavy lift. Anyway, mechanical lifts, trying to get those lat wings, started doing single arm pull downs and more unilateral. No, I mean, not. I mean, that's a good last exercise. That's not going to give you a lot of size because there's not a lot of progression opportunity. A fine exercise, but you need some heavy ass attack. You need some big attack. It's a misnomer that rows don't hit your lats. I'm not saying you need to do only rows, but you need to do pendlay rows and dumbbell rows alternating every other week. And then you need to back it up with a heavy ass row like a seated cable row or a seal row. And after that, we're going to do some lat work. We're going to do the V-bar pull down, maybe some pull-ups, maybe a dumbbell pullover, maybe a dumbbell-focused lat row. But that's the tools I'm going to give you, okay? Because I will tell you, the single arm pull down, yes, it has a good feel. Yes, it's a good fourth place exercise. No, it's not going to build a lot of size. It doesn't have enough weight or potency behind it. Shelly said her glutes were on fire. We're glad to hear that. What's the healthiest salad dressing? All right, so the most amazing things for lifters is you can take Greek yogurt and you could mix it with, if you take one of these salad dressings from the store, you can find healthier ones that are lower calorie, but you can take Greek yogurt, get that little bit of creaminess, and then cut it with a little bit of the healthy salad dressing just to give a little flavor and creaminess. That's one option. What I used to do was I used to use salsa as a kind of salad dressing. Now, if you want something out at a restaurant, it's probably some sort of a vinaigrette where you have vinegar and a light amount of oil. Yeah, you're going to have calories, but it's not going to have a bunch of sugar, but I don't know. There's really, really ways to get creative when it comes to, if you're talking about at home, you just have to get creative. Greek yogurt is a wonderful thing. And if you went over to like Chat GPT, let's do that live, shall we? Let's have a little bit of fun. Let me just pull it up, okay? And let me just detach the tab, and we'll just see what we can get, okay? I rely on this a lot for work and idea generation, and I also think it's wonderful for generating meal plans. So I need 5 5 healthy, low-calorie, if I could spell, healthy, low-calorie salad dressing recipes that involve, if I could type, sorry. Let's just try to clear this up. That involve a Greek yogurt base and no sugar or nasty, unhealthy ingredients. Okay, let's see what we get. All righty. Garlic, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, parsley. Dill is really underrated. All right, zesty Greek yogurt ranch, apple cider vinegar, chives, dill, paprika. All right. Avocado, yogurt, lime, avocado, Greek juice. A lot of the same things you can see. That sounds good to me. Greek yogurt, tahini, lemon, garlic. Yeah, a lot of the basic same ingredients. Now, if we wanted to do this and remove the Greek yogurt, let me just see what we can do, and then we'll move on. I need Let's just see what we can. I know there's spelling error. Let's see what we can do without the Greek yogurt if you don't want the Greek yogurt. Lemon olive oil. I'm going to put it to the test. We have avocado. Okay, we're getting a lot of olive oil stuff here. There's nothing unhealthy about olive oil, but if we want to bring the calories down, let me test it. And no olive oil. Let's see what we get with no olive oil, shall we? The Greek, always back to the Greek yogurt. Yeah, it can't go wrong. Greek yogurt, apple cider vinegar. I love red wine vinegar. I think that's a really good tool. You can mix that with Greek yogurt, cilantro, etc. Avocado, Greek yogurt. Yeah, I'd snuggle with that. Mustard. We forgot about mustard. Red wine vinegar and mustard. That sounds good to me right there. Greek yogurt, Dijon. Hell yeah. With red wine vinegar. I'm all about that. Greek yogurt, cucumber, DTT. All right. Where are we at? Big Lee. Any advice with push sleds, sled drags, battle ropes, This is what we call general conditioning stuff. So either you can have a day or two where you do general conditioning work, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever you want. There's nothing wrong with doing this. It's not hypertrophy work, and that's not a criticism. It's just not. So the only advice I can give you is to have fun and not beat up your body and allow yourself an appropriate amount of recovery time before you do your next hypertrophy workout. Does that make sense? If I lived in the US, I'd be a fat lord. We don't have Mongolian and Knott's decent kebabs. So, yeah, I mean, the wonderful thing about America is that if you want choices that are healthy away from home, you can find a lot of healthy choices. It's really a choice, no pun intended, to be a fat lord. Will a single leg press with 60% of your body weight, if it works for you? It really depends on the leg press station. Some of them don't feel good. Some of them do feel good. I've tried some of them over the years that don't feel good. I don't always like the single leg press on a lot of machines, but yeah, it's a good option, a good secondary option if it feels good for you. Are all the joints in the body, specifically the joints in the arms and legs, susceptible to experiencing? I'm no expert on that. I do know that elbow tendonitis from gripping is extremely common, one of the most common issues. And you also will see things like shoulder tendonitis and knee tendonitis, or quad tendonitis, but those tend to be more rare. Deficit trap bar. No, I'm not a fan of deficit stuff. I think it's overbaking. I mean, if you have really good deadlift form and you want to alternate every other week to work on your deadlift between a deficit and a slight deficit, not an aggressive deficit, and the regular deadlift, that's fine. Not for hypertrophy, because it's simply going to transfer some of the stress from your upper back into your lower back. So not specifically for hypertrophy. Do you have any favorite silver era bodybuilders? Silver era bodybuilders. That's a very good question. I think the biggest one for me is Marvin Eder. I did a video on Marvin. I have no problem with Reg and Steve Reeves, but Marvin Eder would do a lot of volume, just super strong, big, thick back. Have you ever seen Marvin Eder's back? Legitimate. Watch my video on Marvin Eder if you can. How can I program heavy light split for power building? Well, I'll give you an example, and there's many, many ways to do this. I have a bench program which has a 3, 4, 5, 6 day, and then a 5, 10, 10, 20 day. And you can search bench programs, and you can, basically you want to do a more volume conventional day, 3x10, 4x10, threes protocol. You can search progression on this channel and get all sorts of ideas, or check out my book, Massive Omnibus, at Super Living the Day. But I have a program where you put a weight on the bar and you do 3 reps and 4 reps and 5 reps and 6 reps or max reps. You can do a 4x2, a 3x3, a 5x2, a 5x3. You can dabble in the lower rep ranges. You just, you can do a 5x. Let's start with 4. So you can do a 5x4, a 4x4, a 3x4 with 3 rep sets. You can do a 5x3, a 4x3, a 3x3. With 2 rep sets, you can do a 5x2, a 4x2, or a 3x2. With 1 rep sets, 8x1, 7x1, 6x1, 5x1, something like that. You can have a lower day like that and then alternate it with a more conventional day. Does that make sense? Do you use reverse grip bench? I have tried it. Doesn't work for me. It's just simply, I have nothing against it. I have nothing against people trying it. I don't find that many people can do it. I just can't get into position. Call it being muscle bound, call it whatever. I just can't get into position. If you can and it feels natural for you, go for it. Isaac, what would you implement to rein someone in whose default is to push everything to AMRAP all the time? I will say there can be a fear in the lifting industry that you have to push every set to AMRAP or you're not going to get gains, and it's ridiculous. I want you to remember this, and some people won't believe it, but not every set needs to be max reps. At least if one set is for max safe reps per exercise over 10 years, the time it's going to take to build a quality physique, you're going to build a lot of strength, you're going to build a lot of size, and there's really going to be no difference between you and the guy pushing every set for max safe reps. Things even out. That's the beautiful thing about training. As you get stronger, doing every set for AMRAP or max reps is going to beat the living crap out of your body. That's reality. That's a generalization. Some exercises it won't, some exercises it will. But you can have a little bit of freedom as long as the focus is on hard training and you have at least one set. Somebody will say, excuse me, one set out of all the sets. That's not going to work. Hashtag Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates would do ramping sets. a little bit of pre-fatigue. That's not going to work. A little bit of pre-fatigue, you know. So there's so much paranoia. Aaron said, salsa is a healthy. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many good salsas out there right now. There is a mango habanero that I absolutely love. A little bit of sweet from that mango. There's a Mrs. Renfro's green salsa. Holy crap. If you want to make a good salad, you can pretty much put whatever you want. You want to make a chicken salad, dice in a little bit of tomatoes, onions, cherry tomatoes, a little bit of cheese. All you got to do is put one of these salsas in and you're good to go. All right. I think I swallowed a dog here. Thanks for answering my question. You bet. Thank you. And let me know if you have any more questions. I encourage you guys to come over and join my Discord group. Really, really. Come join my Discord group. If you don't know where it is, just send me a message. I'd be glad to send you a link. I want more people over there. We just have a good community. It's not filled with nonsense. It's not filled with politics. It's not filled with religion. It's not filled with drama. Just me posting random GIFs. Is having stiff ankles a bad thing? No, not really. I mean, the worst thing for squatting is bad technique. That's the most common issue. If you can get that sorted, you'll be able to hit good enough depth. Aside from looking cool, do lifting chains. Yeah, I love chains, man. They really, you can put a lot of extra weight on a lift, and in the hole, it'll feel lighter, and then it can really work that overload. I think they're a great tool. I used them for a long, long time. They are expensive a little bit, but it's once you get pretty strong, it's fun to rotate between a normal week and chains, etc. Ice cold, ICT. A lot of past ankle sprains have resulted. Yeah, don't worry about it. Form is the biggest issue when it comes to squats. GK, big hairy ugly dude. I have great elbow discomfort during extensions. Yeah, I mean, elbow issues are common on triceps movements. Okay, very, very common. Which ones are going to snake bite you? Hard to say. I will tell you, over the years, I've seen, if I had a group of 10 lifters with 10 elbow issues from triceps, generally they're going to be a bunch of different exercises. You just don't know which ones are going to bother your elbows. It is my speculation that the connective tissue in and around the elbow can't get up to speed as strong as the strength potential to do exercises on that joint. Does that make sense? So as long as you have a reasonable selection, you're absolutely fine. Big Aaron, do you think there's value to going and competing at oh yeah, absolutely. You go to a national competition, like I used to compete at the UPA Nationals in Dubuque, Iowa, on powerlifting, just a world-class event. And you can learn a lot. You can meet good people. It's a good experience. And generally you realize not only that you're having fun, but it generally fuels you a lot more. So I would absolutely do it if you could. Big Lead, you mind assessing my RDL form? Yeah. Post it here, post the link, email me the link, do whatever. Just let me know. We got about 5 questions left. So if you want me to do a video live, better get it in now. Would doing one set of 15 to 20 on squats. Yeah, don't get caught up in boxes and definitions. One thing I found doing 20 rep squats over the years is that doing them every week can be tedious. So I have a video on this channel and also some information in my book, Massive Omnibus, about a couple variations on the 20 rep squats. Let's say you're doing them with 225 pounds. The next week you could do 225 by 20. The next week 225 by 15. The next week 230 by 20. You can rotate intensity, or you can just do 15 reppers if you want, or you can deload 20 reps. I'm going to do 225 by 20, 205 by 20. You can do anything you want. Does that make sense? Jason, I've been messing with wide grip upright rows. Feels like the compound of the side lateral raise, and you can progress with it. Yeah, no issue. The only thing I would say is look at the high pull as well. I'm not telling you to do the high pull necessarily, but it's worth considering. An upright row is a fine exercise if you like to do it, but a high pull is a good alternative as well, and you can use a little bit more weight. Some people like that. I prefer that. What do you think about alternating movements? For example, squats one, deadlifts the next. Wait, let me think this through. Squat one, deadlift the next, incline 1 week, close grip the next. You mean like alternating between squats first and deadlifts first? Yeah, you just have to adjust. If I'm understanding you correctly, you just might have to adjust weight because each day has to be considered its own unique training day. So I'm not saying your reps will be dramatically different. But if I'm going to do that, I might do squats with the threes protocol and deadlifts with 2x6, and then deadlifts with the threes protocol, and then the next week squats 2x6. So let's see. I've been stuck for 10 months. No, adding weight isn't going to unstuckify you. We need to know, are you bulking? Check out my block protocol. Search my channel for pull-ups. I have a block protocol where you try to do as many reps as you can in 2 minutes, resting as needed. This allows you to progress a little bit more because you can hop down and then, hop back up and continue. Do you have any videos where you were training while also running a ton? I mean, I do on Instagram. I mean, I didn't record a lot of videos during that time. But mostly it was just a lot of 225 for 5 sets of 10. I didn't do a lot of crazy heavy work during the 4 or 5 years. I just kind of maintained but my story, is different from yours. You're looking to balance it, and balancing it, I do this a lot with my clients, really comes down to allowing recovery after an endurance event. So you feel ready to go again with lifting, if you want more information, come join Team Massive because there's a lot of nuts and bolts here. I have to know what you're doing. I have to know how you're training. I have to know what your goals are, how much you're lifting. But balancing it is really easy once I know the details. Big Lee said, I just emailed it over. 1 second, compadres. Let's find the thing in the thing here. And I got to make sure I mute it. So let's see. Copy video Earl. Okay. So I had to get the video on here. We have to mute it. Whoops. I have to mute the video because if it has any music, and this is running live on Facebook and all kinds of things, it'll aggravate it and sometimes take it off of certain countries and all kinds of shenanigans. So let me just share screen. All right, so I have no idea what we're getting into. We're going to look at Big Lee doing an RDL. I got to mute it. Mute. Right. Shaky camera is hard for me because I get motion sickness. All right. let's get past this. All right, you're doing an over-under. No way. Don't do that on RDL. Double over. Get Versagrips if you're having problems with the straps. But first off, I don't like an over-under on RDL. I don't think it's a good optimal. Shaky cam, having trouble. Number one, lockout. You're not locking out. You just, I mean, overall, I would like a video where the camera doesn't move, and I'm not being critical. I just get motion sickness. You need to lock out. The RDL, you're pushing your glutes back to load your hamstrings, and you're kind of doing this piston movement. When you're to lock out, you're pushing your glutes forward. Okay, so I need a little bit more stable. I want to see you completely lock out and then drive your glutes back. You look pretty close to being on track, but I'd like you to get that out of the mix. I can't watch anymore because I get very severe motion sickness when the camera moves, so I apologize. Please show a high pull. 1 second, folks. We will show a high pull. I just need to get a video that isn't El Stinko. Okay. And let's see. This is from Buff Dudes. Present. Share screen. All right. So let me see what he's got here.
And a lot of hip action.
You bend a little bit forward.
Pull straight up.
I don't go, yeah, just like that. Just a little bit forward. You focus on driving the elbows up. So it's like a more Olympic style. Generally, I don't like Olympic style movements or movements like this, but I find it's a really good movement for the shoulders if you focus on driving the elbows up like he is. This is a good example. And you can do a lot of volume on these and really torch the shoulders. I think it's an underrated shoulder exercise. Big Troy. 2 sets of squats for around 10 reps kill me. Are 2s for squats something you can? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that we need to stick with 10 reps because, you know, once you get above 7 or 8, you know, you can pick up lower back stress before you're picking up quad fatigue. You can pick up, you know, cardiovascular fatigue before you're picking up quad fatigue. You can progress in that lane, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I mean, the weekly volume on all the other quad work is what's important. You know, not how many sets of squats you're doing, and sometimes doing a little bit lower on reps per week on squats and deadlifts just is less fatiguing and affords you the opportunity to do more fancy stuff. That's my bad. I meant to say alternating squats and deadlifts each week, inclines. I'd have to see the program. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I don't really know what you're doing. You have to do squats and deadlifts. You have to do squats every week. I don't want you to be disconnected with that. You don't have to bench every week, but I'd have to see the totality of the program to, you know, comment intelligently. Thank you. All right, guys, that is it. I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes to see if there's any more questions. Please, if you're interested in coaching, I have 1 slot left. Go over to the coaching tab. It's only $89.40 after the first month, and I'm with you every single day. I'm not one of these coaches that doesn't communicate. I am communicating with you every single day. Just ask my clients. If you need apparel, you can find some good apparel over here. Just search apparel. I have a custom workout service. For only $39, I'll build a custom workout for you. That's one of my most popular services. Everything's custom. Books, I have the massive omnibus. I have massive iron. I have log books. I have cookbooks. I have all kinds of content that I put together. So please check that out. I appreciate your support as a small business. Thank you guys for watching. Please come back next Friday, and I am out of here.
not almost there.